Hi, this is Chatterboxing. I'm Sean. It's my prediction video for the Oleksandr Usyk Tony Bellew fight Saturday night in Manchester. It's a good fight. I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, all the cruiserweight belts at stake. Oleksandr Usyk, if he wins this, presumably will move up to heavyweight. Tony Bellew will presumably vacate them. I can't see him. If he does win, I can't see him defending them. So yeah, I mean, everything's at stake in this fight. For Tony Bellew to have a chance in this fight, not just winning but even making it competitive, he's going to need to really disrupt the rhythm of the Usyk, and he's going to need to fight a perfect fight. Now, I don't really see any advantages he has over Usyk physically. I think Usyk is quicker than him, physically stronger than him, more skillful than him. He's got a much higher volume than him. A higher ring IQ than him, better reflexes. I think he's probably tougher as well. So I don't really see what advantages Bellew has. I mean, he talks about having like this massive punching power. I think it's exaggerated personally. I mean, he does have a decent punch on him. Usyk's style is more kind of moving about. He's not really sitting down in his shots as much. So in that sense, maybe Bellew is sort of throwing harder punches rather than being able to punch harder. But he does have a good left hook. He does have good timing, Bellew. I'll give him that. I watched the David Haye, the second David Haye fight back. I was quite impressed by his timing, and when he saw an opportunity to take advantage, he did, and he did it very quickly, very efficiently, and he can transition defence into attack very, very well. Now, he did it for the first knockdown. It was for one of the knockdowns. He did it very, very well, and then he did it as well, I think, for the actual when the ref stopped the fight. On both of those occasions, he's defending, Hayes having a good moment, and then he just picks the perfect moment to just switch it up and go on the offensive and catches David Haye. Now, that is something that I am quite impressed with about Bellew. He even did it reasonably well against Adonis Stevenson in the fight that he lost. Now, Adonis Stevenson obviously has very, very long arms, very quick feet, and he just the distance he was unable to really cover that effectively and really get the full power on the shots. I think those physical advantages that Adonis Stevenson had were too much for him. Also, I think being a light heavyweight wasn't a very good weight for him. He's definitely better as a cruiserweight. So I think what he's going to need to do, and what he's obviously going to do, he's going to be trying to land that one punch. Not necessarily like a one-punch boom knockout, but one punch to change the fight. We can then jump on Usyk. And let's be real. I mean, I hope that I don't know who the referee is. I really hope it's not Howard Foster. And if it is Howard Foster, then I wouldn't be that surprised if Bellew lands like a half-decent punch. Usyk takes a little step back, a little stumble or whatever. He jumps on him, starts swinging a few, and Howard Foster waves it off. I mean, I'm not saying that is going to happen, but it's not outside the realms of possibility. I think that's what Tony Bellew's game plan will be. I don't think he's going to try and outbox Usyk. He's got no chance. Usyk's too quick, too high volume. His angles are too much. Bellew's just not going to be able to keep up with that pace. So what he's going to need to try and do is disrupt that rhythm. And if he can do that, then he's got a chance. So I think I've heard an interview with him where he's talking about breaking Usyk's heart. I think he's underestimating the character of Usyk. I think he's overestimating himself, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But when I'm analysing the fight, I don't necessarily agree with him. I think he's going to try and fight a little bit like how Andre Ward did against Kovalev. The way he's talking and the fact that he can't really outbox Usyk and he can't keep up with the pace that he's going to set. I think he's what he's going to try and land some body shots, roughhouse tactics. Don't be surprised if he gets a few low blows in there. We've seen Bellew do that before. He did it against what's the bloke he fought? David Haye's mate. I can't remember his name. Anyway, he kind of hit him in the bollocks with an uppercut before he knocked him out. So he can use sort of roughhouse tactics, Bellew. I think he's going to need to in this fight. He's going to need to, as I say, disrupt that rhythm. Because if Usyk does get into a rhythm, then he just gets better and better, and it just flows naturally to him. Usyk I mean, he's going to come in, obviously, in and out, very quick on his feet. He like bounces in. He's almost like a sort of Pacquiao in the sense of how quickly in and out he can get. For someone obviously the size he is, he's pretty impressive. So he can do that. He can do that at angles. He comes in, hits you with about 4 or 5 punches, then he'll go off to his side. I just don't really see Bellew being able to compete with that. He's going to be looking for that big left hook. Usyk knows it's going to be coming. That's not the only punch, obviously, that Bellew's got, but that's his most dangerous punch, and that's the one I think he's going to be counting on causing some damage to Usyk with. So, yeah, how I see the fight going, I see Usyk coming out, setting a pace, Bellew losing pretty much all of the rounds, to be honest. I don't really see Bellew. I don't think that probably won't be reflected on the scorecards, but I don't really see Bellew winning. I mean, it's a 12-round fight. So if it goes 12, you think possibly he'll win a couple, but I can't see him winning any more than that. I think Usyk's going to have much higher volume, much higher percentage at landing his punches. Body's going to work the body. I think he's just going to wear Bellew down. To be honest with you, I don't actually think it's going to go 12 rounds. I think when you consider this is the biggest stage really that Usyk has fought on, not necessarily the most significant, because obviously when he fought against Gassiev, that was a final of a tournament where he won, where he became undisputed champion. So really, that in theory is bigger, but because of what that did to his name and to his profile, since then most people have got him in this mythical sort of pound for pound list right up there. I don't know, in most people's top 5, some people's top 2, 3, whatever. He's now a big name in boxing. Tony Bellew is a big name in boxing. Manchester is a huge boxing city. Live on Sky Sports, big audience. Interest around the world. You see quite a few journalists out there from America, from all over, covering this fight. So this is a massive fight for him. He's used to fighting on the road as well. I mean, this is one thing I like about Usyk. This is what Bellew talks about. I'm going to break his heart. Usyk fought. I think the first fight I ever saw against him was against Glowacki. I don't know how you pronounce his name. The Polish bloke in Poland. Good crowd. Good crowd. The Poles. Intimidating atmosphere. He fought an American, Michael Hunter, in America. He fought Bradis in Latvia. I think in Latvia, in his hometown. He fought Gassiev in Russia. Now, obviously, anyone who knows anything about politics, Ukraine, Russia, you know what I mean? It's quite it was probably quite a hostile place for him to go. Winning a Gassiev, unbeaten, doesn't really lose a round, completely schools him. So his character is very, very strong. He's very used to doing this. He is a true world champion. There are very few people. I mean, I can't think of anyone who I respect as much as in that respect. I know people have got different situations. Obviously, you've got people like Anthony Joshua, Floyd Mayweather, Canelo. They're just making so much money where they are. It's a different kind of style. But still, when you've got someone who's just sort of going around fighting top quality fighters in their own countries, you've just got to take your hat off. And I don't think the crowd is going to bother him one bit. Now, don't get me wrong. I think the crowd in England is much more rowdy, much more kind of noisy, and more. It's more of an intense energy in the crowd than anything he would have experienced before. But I think he's going to like that. I don't think that's going to affect him at all. And let's face it, Usyk's quite a likeable character. I mean, who doesn't like him? Do you know what I mean? It's not like he's going to get there and it's going to be hostile. Yeah, it'll be a bit hostile, but more in the sense of supporting Bellew. So he's going to love it. Personally, I think he's going to rise to the occasion. And I think Bellew will as well. I mean, listen, Bellew, I've criticised him. I'm not a massive fan of Bellew, to be honest. I don't really. Yeah, I mean, he gets on my nerves, to be honest. Like a lot of stuff, he comes out the way he is, but he's going to rise to the occasion as well. I mean, he is. I don't believe. I mean, the way he talks, like he's sort of, I can't quit. I think he overdoes all that, and it's a bit false. But at the same time, he is someone who's going to rise to the occasion. He's been in big fights before. So he's not someone who's going to back down either. So that's why I think it's going to be a very good fight. I think Usyk is going to be dominating the fight. I think the crowd they're going to really kind of G him up. Bellew's going to go for it, and I think that it's going to be a late stoppage. I think it's going to be a difficult one for Dave Coldwell, to be honest, because this is obviously Bellew's well, last fight, so he says, and I'm sure it will be. For Dave Coldwell, he's done a real good job with Bellew. They work very well together. They're good friends. In this final fight, it's going to be a difficult. I wouldn't want to be in Dave Coldwell's position if the rounds are going on. Bellew's taking a beating. He's sort of like, should I, shouldn't I? He got the towel in his hand, wants to stop the fight, but he doesn't really want. He wants to give Bellew. It's going to be a difficult one for him. I think that's what's going to happen. And if it's an English referee, it's going to be. I said earlier, Howard Foster, who could protect the minute Bellew lands a couple of punches, he could potentially come right and just stop the fight. So I think the referee will give Bellew every chance to continue, but I think it's going to be a case where someone is going to stop the fight, be it the referee or Dave Coldwell. It's just going to be too one-sided. I think Usyk is just a few levels above Bellew at least. I think this is him really wanting to make a name for himself. He's already made a name for himself, but this is going to be him putting on a really big show, sending a message to the heavyweight division, because then the plan is to move up to the heavyweight division. So that's what I think is going to happen. I don't know when. I'm going for maybe round 10 stoppage or being retired. I don't think Bellew's. He's really not going to want to retire on his stall like that. He will. I'll give him that much credit. He won't want to do that. It's going to have to be Dave Coldwell, the ref, saving him for himself. Wouldn't be surprised if it does go 12. Do you know what I mean? Because Usyk could just be so easily outboxing him. He doesn't really need to do that. So it does depend. But I think the most likely outcome is that he's going to, step on the gas, put on a show. The crowd, as I say, will be getting everyone going, and that's what I think he's going to want to do. Now, people are saying that there's this sort of common narrative, like, we just can't write Bellew off. We've written him off too many times in the past. Now, I've written him. I think this is overhyped. I wrote Bellew off once, and that was the first David Haye fight. I thought David Haye was going to demolish him, but that's only because I didn't realise how shocked David Haye was. Do you know what I mean? He came into that fight literally just waiting to fall to pieces. He come in just swinging mad, punches, like he's having a fight in the street, pissed up or something, and then done his Achilles tendon. He couldn't really stand, but that was just obviously he was completely shocked. Tony Bellew knew that, so that's the only reason why we wrote him off. That's the only reason I wrote him off, and I think that's the overwhelming majority of people wrote him off because we just didn't realise how shocked David Haye was. So I don't see that as having anything to do with a fight between Tony Bellew and Oleksandr Usyk. Do you know what I mean? I keep seeing people saying, how many times have we written Bellew? Well, once in my case. I don't know if people are saying they wrote it. Well, maybe against Adonis Stevenson, but he got knocked out in that fight, so that's not exactly evidence, is it? So yeah, the fact that David Haye was how old was David Haye? He's about 37, loads of injuries, well past his prime. Tony Bellew himself was saying that he hadn't been in a proper fight since Derek Chisora, so he obviously knew what David Haye was like. Listen, that was a good performance against David Haye, especially the second one. The second one, I was impressed. But, that's not an indication that he's going to go and beat Oleksandr Usyk, who's in his prime, who's, in my opinion, beaten two better fighters than Tony Bellew in his last two fights. So, I don't really see that being relevant. Now, you could say that Gassiev stylistically had less of a chance against Bellew, less of a chance than Bellew, because obviously he was a sort of bit slow on his feet, a bit one-dimensional. He's very, very good at what he's very strong, very powerful, but he didn't have that much experience either. So maybe you could say that Bellew's got a better chance, all things considered. But still, I don't think he's as good as Gassiev. I definitely don't think he's as good as Bradis, and I don't think that fight was as close as people think either. I've heard loads of people say they thought Bradis was really. I didn't see that at all. I thought Usyk won that fight quite comfortably. So yeah, anyway, I think I've waffled on about this long enough. Good fight. Usyk by stoppage or Dave Coldwell throwing a towel around the 10th round. That's my prediction. So let me know what you lot think. Thank you very much for watching.